In 1989, a group of children faced off against the cosmic entity known as it, which awakens every 27 years to feed on itself, terrorized another group of citizens in Derry. Let's get started. The series opens with the light of a movie projector that tries to remind us of the lights of death, which are the true form of it and that Beverly got to see face to face. And they're singing the musical number, Trouble, which is also a bad omen for little Matt, who will soon be in trouble, because it turns out he snuck in without paying and the guard finds out, so he runs away to hide. Outside, Ronnie, the projectionist's dog, against it, as we saw in the second film. So this poster could be a nod to those moments in the film. Ronnie helps hide Matt, but the guard finds out and he has to run. And we see that cinema is capital. Maudie ends up hitchhiking on the edge of town and we see a welcome sign that has a statue of Paul Bonin, who is a popular American cultural hero and a giant lumberjack. Family friend of Maddie's, and he drives him out of town to Portland, where Stephen King. And as they drive, the radio talks about the dangers of radiation, since in 1962, the radio mentions that the radiation from the bombs could cause birth defects in babies. And this is what plants the fear in Maddie's head of the mutant baby that we will see later. The scene is very uncomfortable with the girl opening a topper with pieces of liver, the parents making sexual jokes and the boy spelling out increasingly sinister words like necrosis, kidnapping, maggots, corpse, strangulation. All this to scare Maudie more and more and season his flesh with the flavor of fear, which is how Pennywise likes to eat. And precisely we see that the boy takes on the appearance of the clown with his misplaced eye and large front teeth, while the mother gives birth to the mutant baby who has 2 heads and a bat wing on his arm. Nati can't stand the terror and tries to isolate herself by covering her ears and putting the pacifier in her mouth, but the baby attacks her and her pacifier ends up in the river and the drain where several voices like those of children screaming can be heard. Let's dedicate a few moments to poor Maudie, whose life was very sad. He had no friends, as Teddy and Phil tell us later. His father beat him and that's why he had a black eye. And the fact that at age 12 he still uses a pacifier means that he felt very insecure and scared in his daily life and needed the pacifier to calm his anxiety, but he ended up dying full of fear, a victim of that. 4 months later we go to Filey, Filey uses her as a hideout and to observe the planes from the nearby military base, and we see that on her watch she has the image of the Space Cadet, a character from novels and comics of the time. Major Hanlon and the Russian captain arrive at the base. And if the last name Hanlon sounds familiar, it's because this man is the grandfather of Mike Hanlon, one of the losers of 1989. In the movie we see that his grandfather takes care of him because his parents died in a fire, but we won't see that in this series because his parents are still children and the guy who drives the Jeep is also an important character in Stephen King's stories. Something that was already revealed in the trailers, but since they don't say it in the episode, we'll leave it for the next chapter. Hanlon is introduced to the rest of the military, but there is one who is racist, a certain Masters who doesn't want to show Hanlon any respect. Fortunately, Chief Shaw comes to her defense and the incident doesn't escalate, at least for the time being. But Masters will surely cause problems later on. At the Derry school, which is the same one from the movies, and inside the school there's precisely someone dressed as this turtle handing out pamphlets so that children know what to do in the event of an attack. That we see Bird the turtle as a protector of children, just like Maturin the turtle is. At school we also meet Lily, a girl who discovers that her locker has been filled with pickle jars. A very cruel joke because later we are told that her father died in an accident at the factory that canned them and his body ended up mangled inside pickle jars. Her friend tries to console her for the joke, and when they pass by 2 other boys, Ted and Phil, Lily stares at them because she thinks they are Maddie's friends and wants to talk to someone about him because she feels guilty about his death. Ted is a Jewish boy, something that could be true, since the base has a top-secret program and, even if that were not the case, aliens are in Derry, because that is precisely what came to Earth from space, so I could consider it an extraterrestrial. In Phil's room we see that he has movie poster to Phil about Maddie's death because he thinks he could still be alive, since they never found his body. It's kind of like how Bill couldn't accept the death of his brother Georgie. Ted feels guilty for not treating him like a friend and for not going to his birthday party. But Phil doesn't want to talk about it because he still doesn't want to accept his guilt. But another one who feels guilty is Lily, who has a memory of when Maddie gave her the turtle pendant, which again is a symbol of protection from Maturin. The flashback is to the water tower, which is closed, and the novel tells us that this is because some children drowned there years before. Matt removes a Lone Ranger figurine and they begin to talk about the death of Lily's father, something we don't see, but we can hear audio of the accident with the machines running and her scream when her father dies. Then the New Year's fireworks begin and Matt tries to kiss Lily, but she doesn't know what to do and Matt leaves feeling rejected. Later we see that Matt's death occurred on January 4th, just 40 days after this incident. Back in the present, Lily is about to take a bath when she hears Matt's voice coming from the drain. And hearing voices from the drain is something that happens to several of the children in Derry. Beverly heard them and so did the boy that Bill tried to save as an adult. Lily tells her friend March everything, but since she wants to hang out with the popular girls, she doesn't want them to find out that Lily hears. On the wall we can see a heart with her father's name, Alvin March. Maybe Beverly's mother, Frida, put it there. And since Lily doesn't feel that her friend supports her, she decides to tell Maddie's friends, Ted and Phil, hoping that they believe her. But they don't listen to her either, although Ted keeps the idea in his head and asks his dad if someone could have Maddie trapped in the drain. And his dad tells him that his family has seen the evil of men because they were in a Nazi concentration camp and talks about how they used Jewish skin to make lamps, real-world things that don't compare to the comics Ted reads, like The Flash number 123, which is the beginning of the DC multiverse, and a possible nod to the fact that director Andy Muschietti also directed the Flash movie, and then he reads Detective Comics number 298, where Batman fights Clayface. Maybe it's a nod to the upcoming Batman movie that Andy Muschietti will direct, but the skin on the lamps thing left such an impression on Ted that he uses it to scare him. And it seems that the faces on the lamp are those of his family, including his dad with his beard, his mom with curly hair, and his brother, who at that moment, we also see a Bangor shoe advertisement for Stephen King's hometown of Bangor. And up in the tower, we see that the boys have reunited and now believe what Lily told them. But she doesn't want to tell any adults because she's afraid they'll send her back to Juniper Hills Center. The boys do some research in the library with Phil's little sister Susie and look through microfilms of old newspapers, where they discover that Ronnie was the last person to see Maddie alive. So they go looking for her, but she doesn't want to say anything because the police have been questioning her father, trying to frame him for Maddie's disappearance. Again, this is a bit of the racism that permeates Derry, reflected in the prejudices of the police. And in this scene there are people in the background watching what is happening the whole time. It is probably already preparing its trap in the movie. While at the base Han reads the newspaper that talks about the construction of the Paul Bond statue, the same one that attacks Richie in the future. And when Han goes to sleep, a group of people wearing gas masks try to interrogate him about the new bomber plane they want him to pilot, but his friend saves him and the guys run away. I doubt they are Russian spies because they do not have an accent and it is very unusual for them to have infiltrated the base. And I suspect that this was just a test by the general to see if Hannon was trustworthy or if he would easily reveal secrets. Back with the kids, they go to the cinema where the movie Devil May Cry 5 is showing, and in the background you can see a hotel called Arrowhead, which could be a nod to another element in King's novels, several of which briefly mention a certain Arrowhead project. They never explain with certainty what this military. In the darkness of the cinema, the children cry because of the guilt they feel for his death, and then the movie starts right on the scene of the song Trouble, sung by the mysterious voice from the drain. And then they see that Maddie is inside the movie. For this scene, they filmed Maddie with the family that kidnapped him in front of a green screen and then used the background for the film in post-production. But also, The color correction to make it look the same as the film, even with the grainy texture, is very good. The kids yell at Maudie, and at this point they think he's simply trapped in the film and they'll be able to rescue him, but Maudie tells them that they lied to him and abandoned him. And then we see Maudie with the Pennywise smile with his big front teeth, and he throws them the mutant baby that looks bigger because it's the size of the film projection. And this scene is crazy because they kill almost all the children that we thought would be the protagonists, including little Susie. But Lily survives, perhaps because of the protection of the turtle in her hand.